إذن أيها الإخوة والأخوات الكرام، نحن على موعد الآن مع الجلسة الافتتاحية من جلسات هذا الملتقى، ويديرها مشكوراً سعادة الدكتور أنس الفارس، المشرف على برنامج مراكز التميز المشتركة في مدينة الملك عبد العزيز للعلوم والتكنولوجيا. يشغل الدكتور أنس الفارس حالياً منصب المشرف على برنامج مراكز التميز المشتركة JCEP في مدينة الملك عبد العزيز للعلوم والتقنية، وهو أيضاً المدير المشارك لمركز النظم الهندسية المركبة في المدينة ومعهد ماساتشوستس للتكنولوجيا MIT، وكذلك المدير المشارك لمركز دعم اتخاذ القرار بين المدينة وبوينغ، وهو أستاذ مساعد في المدينة وأستاذ مساعد زائر في معهد ماساتشوستس للتقنية. عمل الدكتور الفارس مستشاراً لمعالي وزير الاقتصاد والتخطيط ورئيساً لفريق العمل المعني بتطوير استراتيجية تحول المملكة إلى مجتمع قائم على المعرفة، كما رأس الفريق الاستشاري للخطة الثانية للعلوم والتقنية والابتكار للمملكة. إذن رحبوا معي بسعادة الدكتور أنس الفارس.
شكرا. السلام عليكم. بالنسبة للبرنامج لمحاضرات اليوم سنبتدأ بالدكتور باتريك ديكسون، سيلقي محاضرة عن كيف ستغير العلوم حياتنا خلال السنوات ال50 المقبلة. يلي ذلك محاضرة من الدكتور خالد سليمان اليحيى عن وعود المستقبل. بعد ذلك سنفتحها للنقاش مع الحضور. سريعا سأقدم الدكتور باتريك ديكسون. دكتور باتريك ديكسون قد تم تصنيفه كأحد أكثر المفكرين الأحياء تأثيرا في مجال العلم التجاري على مستوى العالم. ألف 15 كتابا، وهو يعمل لدى عدد من كبريات الشركات المتعددة الجنسيات. تصفه وسائل الإعلام بأنه أحد رواد الحركة المستقبلية في أوروبا. يعمل الدكتور باتريك أيضا كطبيب بحكم تخصصه الأصلي، وقد خاطب الدكتور ديكسون الجماهير في أكثر من 52 دولة، وزار موقعه الخاص على الإنترنت ما يزيد عن 13 مليون مستخدم، كما شاهد فيديوهاته على اليوتيوب هذا العام فقط أكثر من 4 ملايين شخص. الرجاء رحبوا معي بالدكتور باتريك ديكسون. باتريك.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students and learners on the journey of life, it is a great privilege and honor to be a part of this extraordinary celebration of science. And also I wish to bring my condolences from my own country to the royal family at this sad time of bereavement. We are in an extraordinary day, and I cannot imagine a more exciting time to be alive than today. If I can have my first slide, I want to take you on a journey into the future. I want us to look at how science will transform our lives over the next 50 years. What's going to happen in science? How will it affect you? And I have to say, I have traveled in 50 countries. I have attended 50 to 60 events per year, but I have never, ever in all of my life come across such an amazing celebration of science, technology, innovation, and fun in the educational system. And I would like you to congratulate yourselves. I had such fun yesterday, walking around, talking to people, maybe some of you who have been developing technologies and working in biotech, doing amazing inventions, doing engineering, digital things, chemical things. Amazing, fantastic, wonderful. I just wish my school was like that. Okay. I said, where are the teachers I hope the teachers are here too, because that's where it really starts. It starts with the teachers. I remember my favorite teachers, and they were the ones who had passion for science, and they were the people who lit the fire inside my mind. And they were the people that helped me to understand how science can change tomorrow. Now let's have a look at this journey. I'm going to look at biotech, nanotech, manutech, that's manufacturing technology, infotech, that's digital, travel tech, and energy tech. I haven't got time for the rest, but we'll see how we go. Now, I don't know what your vision of the future is. I look at this fantastic city, and I think about the cities of tomorrow. I think about all kinds of ways we will travel tomorrow, all kinds of strange things like flying cars or even space stations. But here is a fact. You see, we can get lost in speculation about the future. So let's have a look at some facts and see where we go. The fact is that scientific knowledge is doubling every 12 months. 24 months. Let me show you the impact of this. At the moment, this kingdom is impacted a lot by lower oil prices. One reason is because in America there has been a revolution of technology. 5 years ago, the energy companies in the world said that they thought all the gas for the whole world will be finished in 60 years. But as a result of one technology, fracking, getting oil and gas out of rock, one technology, in just one country, America, in just 5 years, we have changed this picture. So now we are thinking about 200 years supply. This is the impact of knowledge doubling every 2 years. Now, follow me in a journey into your future. Let's imagine then, by 2017, we will know twice as much about the world as we do today, okay? So, 2019, 4 times. 2021, we will know 8 times as much as we do today. 2000, you can see where I'm going, okay? This is the law of exponential rise. But I tell you, this is a most important law of science. What I'm showing you now applies to the power of computers in the future, because computer power doubles every so often. It is also a lesson in how a disease like Ebola can spread. When one person infects another every 3 weeks, you get a doubling time of 3 weeks. So doubling is very important. Let's see what happens with this doubling. So 2023, we had 16 times as much knowledge. 2025, 32 times as much knowledge. 227, 64. 128. 256. 512. And ladies and gentlemen, students, you can see in 20 years from now, you land up with 1,000 times more knowledge than we have today. But you have asked me to go not 20 years into the future, but 50 years. So let's carry on and see where we go. Oh, if we go another 20 years into the future, in 20 years we have 1,000 times more knowledge than today. So in 40 years, we have 1,000,000 times more knowledge than we have today, and we still have 10 years left. So 10 more years gives us another 32 times that. So by 2065, I wonder how old you will be. If you are 15, you'll be only 65 years old. And your life expectancy will probably still be another 40 years of life. Okay? So if you're 15 years old, when you are 65, our world will know
32 million times more about energy, 32 million times more about computing, 32 million times more about genetics, 32 million times more about everything. Oh, extraordinary. Amazing. And it's all going to happen in your lifetime. What are we going to do with this incredible knowledge? Now you can see why it is that fracking and the oil industry changed so much in just 5 years, with just maybe 10 times as much knowledge in 5 years as we have today. So just think, what will we know and how will we use that power? Now, here's another fact. While we can focus on all this technology and fun and science that we see outside, do you know the future will be driven by one single word, which is even more important than science, even more important than innovation, more important than technology, more important than health. I wonder what you think this word can be. This word has driven 20,000 years of existence and will drive the next 20,000 years of human history. What is this word? This word is more important than politics. What is this word? Let me tell you a story. I was late to do a technical check one day for a conference, and I was standing by the lift button in this very tall hotel, and nothing was happening. I was so stressed, I didn't know what to do. I was standing there. I was tempted for a moment to do something totally crazy. I was actually tempted to press that lift button more than once. Now, I know that you would never, ever, ever touch a lift button more than once. Or perhaps you would. Okay. Put your hands up if you have thought about touching the lift button. Of course, you would not touch it, but you did think about touching that lift button more than once. Okay. Put up your hands if you actually touched it. Okay. Put up your hands if you have talked to the lift. Come on. Come on. Okay. Now, what were we doing? Even Bill Gates knows you cannot control the lift by punching the lift button and talking to it. Put your hands up if someone in your family talks to the car. We talk to the car, we talk to the lift. I tell you this, I discovered even airline pilots talk to their planes. They say, come on, it's time to go. Now, why do I tell this story? I tell it for this reason. You may think that you're very scientific and logical and rational, but as soon as you are under pressure for more than 10 seconds, like me, you are behaving like completely mad people. And we understand, therefore, that the future is not just about logic or science, it's also about emotion. It's about passion. And that's what I love about this event. That outside there, I'm not just seeing science, I'm seeing passion. And science with no passion is nothing. Even robots can do science, but it's not very exciting. But science with passion to make a difference, this is extraordinary. And all the greatest scientists in history have been driven by a passion for a better future. Driven by a passion to make a difference, to do something amazing. And you know what? Here is an example of why science must connect with passion. You see, we have the technology now to connect computers to brains. Here are some brain cells. These are brain cells here growing on the surface of a chip. And in fact, your brain cells are genetically programmed already to communicate with computers. They can't help it. If I take some cells from your brain and I grow them, they will grow on the surface of this chip and they will start sending messages to each other and electrical messages to the chip. They think the chip is another brain cell, okay? Because chips are electric and brain cells are electric. And so we get a bio-digital brain. Now, we have already inserted chips like this into animals, and these animals can send messages from Medina to Jeddah, from Jeddah to Brazil, from Brazil to London. One animal thinks, and the other one can understand. Amazing. Now put your hands up if you would like a chip like this inside your head to pass exams. Oh, quite a few of you. Okay. Now put up your hands if you are definitely sure that human beings should not have chips like this inside their heads. Okay? Now straight away I saw everyone under the age of 20 put their hands up. And the first question, and everyone over the age of 20 put their hands up in the answer to the second question. What do I learn? Well, I learned this. You can have the best, smartest technology in the world, but if people don't want it, it won't happen. Yes? Okay. So the technology has to connect with the passions that we have. And when we think about biotechnology, we see a lot of this kind of thing. Now, did you know it's not just this kingdom which is young, but we have 1 billion children alive today, all of whom will be adults in the next 20 years. Amazing. 85% of all humanity will be living in emerging markets in the next 10 years. These are places of growth, opportunity, and jobs for you. 3 billion people will be living in cities, more people in cities by 2065 than today. And a huge amount of science will be about finding ways to make these cities work, to produce water, electricity, communications. Now, what about health for all these people who are living in all these cities? This is a really exciting area. Medical technology, imaging. It's using the digital world to help us in health. You see, every piece of science connects to everything else. I can't talk to you about biotech without talking about infotech or nanotech, or all of the future is connected. And when we use imaging, we can create robotics, so this connects with engineering. This is a robot. This robot is controlled by this person here. He sees a 3D image. There are tiny arms here. They make tiny cuts in the skin, and they can operate in amazing ways. We can put the surgeon in Riyadh, and he can operate on someone in London. Amazing. Amazing. Now, it's not always easy to make it work, and we are in an explosion of wearable technology. Put up your hands if you already use a piece of technology like an iPhone or a watch to monitor something like how fast you run or whether you walk or sleep already. Most of us are already monitoring our own health using wearables, and this is just part of an explosion of devices that will get smaller and smaller and more inside you. You will soon have all kinds of devices that are inside as well as outside. And that means we can diagnose illness instantly. It means that with video we can connect you with a doctor who can help you. Now, that's just digital medtech and things like that. What about biotech? I was so excited to see so many exhibition stands outside about biotech. I would love to see the laboratory, the microscopes. There was the blood laboratory area. It's fantastic out there. You see, microscopy is really important. If you can see what is going on, then we can change what is happening and see the result. And in the past, when I was a student, we could only see inside dead cells. At the very, very microscopic level, we had to kill the cell in order to look inside. But today, we can watch a cell think. We can watch a cell react. So this is a piece of technology. This is part of the eye of a mouse, and the mouse eye is receiving light, and as the photons touch the retina, we are seeing cells light up. Isn't that amazing? So we can now test a chemical. And one of your stands outside was about the effect of green tea on preventing cancers. Fantastic. Wonderful. We could decide to do an experiment and see if green tea has an effect on the functioning of the retina. Easy. All we do, watch, add some green tea, see what happens. But when these cells are dead, you can't do it. This is why this kind of imaging just creates the most amazing opportunities for discovery. And then we connect it with your own genetic code. Now, most people don't realize this, but the same language of life is found in every living organism. So your genes, well, I hope you don't mind me being personal about this, but your genes are about 85% the same as an insect. And yours are about 88% the same as an earthworm. And my genes are 99.9% the same as an orangutan monkey. Okay. I know that explains something. But the point is this. Did you know that I could take a gene today from the plant, from this plant, and these genes will work in my body? Did you know that? Isn't that amazing? I can take these genes and put them into an insect, and they work. I can take an insect genes and put them into a flower, and they probably work. Because most of the genes in your body are the same as in the plant. And I can take a single gene from your body that programs, it's the code, it's the computer code, which tells your body how to make insulin. Insulin you need to digest your sugars. Okay? If you have no insulin, you have diabetes and you will die. Unless you are treated. But I can take the gene from your body for insulin. I can find a piece of bacterium from the surface of this table, bacteria that might make you sick. I can take a bottle of water, put some food in the water, open the bottle, put in some sugar and some nutrients, put the bacteria in there, program the bacteria with the gene for insulin, and now I am growing pure insulin. Isn't that amazing? It's astonishing. From bacteria, I can grow from your body instructions to program insulin. And this is an insulin factory. I can make another insulin factory very easily. All I do is dip my finger in, get another bottle, and a few of those bacteria are now in another bottle, and I've created another insulin factory. Astonishing. Extraordinary. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, an insulin factory would have been the size of this entire exhibition area multiplied by 10. And now I can create that entire insulin factory in the size of a single bacterium, less than the size of a single skin cell. This is the power of science. So, when you look at an animal, think again. When you're eating your food, think again. Think of all those genes that we could experiment with. But it raises questions. Do you want to eat a fish with added human genes? If we add human genes to fish, they grow faster. Do you want to eat them? Put your hands up if you want to eat a fish which is also partly human. Oh, not so sure. Okay. I say to you, the future is full of ethical questions as we develop these kinds of science. And these ethical questions will perplex us for many years. Now, here is another fact. When you take medical records and you combine them with what we know about genes, and already we can get a gene profile for maybe $10,000, a basic one. Soon you will have one for $20 or $50. And that will mean that we will have maybe 25 million gene profiles, 25 million medical records. So that means we can tell which gene makes you sick, which genes keep you better. All genes do, if you remember from your science, is they provide the computer code to make a protein. If that's all it is, then you can give the protein as a medicine instead of correcting the gene, or we can give someone a new gene. All kinds of things are possible. Organ repair will also be quite routine. It's already becoming quite straightforward, using your own cells. These are stem cells. Stem cells are things like the ones you had when you were a baby, when you were in the womb growing, but you have stem cells in your body still. We find that, by the way, you don't worry about photographing the slides. I will publish them all online. I give you the web address at the end, and it's all on video, so you can relax. Okay? I just want you to watch with your eyes for a moment. These stem cells will do anything you want, more or less. You can find them inside your bones, inside your nose. There are stem cells inside your nose, which come from the brain. They help you smell, and we can grow new brain tissue from the smelling part of your nose, and we can use that to repair your brain, your spinal cord. We have animals that have had their backs cut who are now able to walk again using stem cells. Stem cells are amazing things. We are repairing heart tissue with stem cells. We have restored sight for someone who is blind using stem cells. This is extraordinary stuff. And I saw a 3D printer outside. I was interested. I have one too, but I'm not interested in printing toys. I want to print human organs. So we take a bubble jet printer, we put in a jelly containing human cells, and it prints a structure, zhung, 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 and it gradually builds up, something like this. Wonderful. Actually, we can also print new skin. Lexmark makes bubble jet printers, and if you have a burned leg, we can put the printer over your leg, and it goes zhung, 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 and it's spraying your leg not with ink, but with your own cells. We take cells from your body, we grow them, we put them in the jelly, and the printer sprays them on. Isn't that incredible? I get so excited about these things, forgive me. You see, the future is about emotion, because it's the excitement we have which drives us to innovate. Here is something else. In every cell, in every creature, in all of life that God created, is the same generator. It's the same power pack. It's called a mitochondrion. And these mitochondria produce electricity, and the electricity powers every cell, and you are an electrical device, just like a computer. And these mitochondria become less efficient as we get old. They waste power. It's a bit like an old car engine. And we can find ways to improve the power generation here. And when you do that, you know what? If you do that in mice and rats, old mice and rats, they run around their cages even faster. They start to remember things again. They heal more quickly when they are wounded. So we are touching every part of the animal's body with a simple drug which affects the power supply. And then we've discovered that if you change the diet of monkeys, they will live to the human equivalent of 150 years. We have animals that live to the age of 200 years by changing their diet or other things. And we have discovered many animals don't have a ticking clock at all. They don't get old. They go tick, but there's no tock. Okay? There is no sign of aging in any of these animals. Some of them live for average 200 years, 255 years, 405 years. Wow. Sorry, that's a maximum life. There are two kinds of whales. Some live for 20 years. The others live for 200 years. They look the same. They swim in the same water. They drink the same stuff. They eat the same fish. So what's the secret? The secret, of course, is in their genes. Now we can analyze the genes of these kinds of whales and compare them with these ones. These ones are living to the age of 200. These ones are only living to the age of 20. If you find the gene, we can discover which proteins the gene makes, and we can either give the gene, similar gene to a human being, maybe, or a protein. Now, this is strange stuff. To think that we could really interfere with the process of aging. And this creates philosophical and even religious questions about the future of life. But you could say that all of healthcare is about this. It's about improving the quality of life, but also the days of your life, the number of days. So here, these are reasons why I say this. In the last hour, on average, every person here has gained 15 minutes of life expectancy. That has been true for the last 20 years. Every hour, 15 minutes. But that's without any of the kinds of technologies I have shown you. I have shown you how medical knowledge doubles every 2 years. You tell me, what do you think life expectancy will be when we have 16 million times more information about healthcare than we have today? Do you really think we will only improve our life expectancy by 15 minutes, only 15 minutes every hour? What? Just like the last 20 years? I cannot believe it. I think we will find that by the year 2065, that any of you who, your children or grandchildren that has a baby in that year, will have that baby will have a life expectancy of maybe 115 years. Some say that babies born in New York today already have a life expectancy of 100 years. Of course, we have to wait 100 years to find out if that prediction is right or wrong. But it's going to be more, you can be sure. Now, let's press on to these other areas, which I will go through more quickly. They're all connected. Nanotech. Nanotech is about atoms. And we have a nanotech project here today. We were talking about it earlier. And nanotech is about putting a surface of atoms on something else. And nanotech is fantastic at things like creating non-stick surfaces. If you put a nanotech coating of a single layer of atoms on steel bearings inside an engine, you will find that engine's efficiency goes up by 5 or even more percent, 5 or 8%. And it costs almost nothing. So here's another example of nanotech. This is a nanotech robot. It's only a picture. It's only a drawing. It's not the real one. Okay? I can't show you the real one, but it exists. Let me tell you what it does. Because my company, I'm chairman of a company, and we build nanotech robots, okay? We are building nanotech robots. Let me show you how these nanotech robots work, because I think it's fantastic. These nanotech robots have a capsule, and they have legs. And at the end of the legs, they have sensors. These are smart robots. These robots can tell the difference between an eye cell in your body and a kidney cell. They can tell the difference between a pig cell and a human cell. So we can target them. We can teach these legs to only stick to a cell which is, let's say, a liver cell inside a human being, okay? The moment it sticks, the legs contract, this capsule touches the wall of the cell, the inside contents here get injected into the cell. The cell is then commanded to make 1,000 more of these nanobot robots, and when it's created 1,000, the cell bursts open, it releases the nanotech robots into the blood. The nanotech robots, then the new ones look for more cells, and so the process continues. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is anybody there yet? I'm talking about a virus. Human viruses. That's all a virus is. Viruses don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't breathe. Viruses don't use energy because they're not alive. They're just nanotech robots. They're collections of atoms assembled together with genetic code inside. And viruses are a very clever way to add new genes to human cells. And the scientists I work with, what are we doing? We are building viruses using a safe virus that doesn't cause any illness, and we put a gene in there to destroy cancer. And we target these cells, and these legs only attach to cancer cells. They hate normal cells. They will not attach to normal cells, but cancer cells they love. Every time they see a cancer cell, they infect them and destroy them. Isn't that fantastic? And it's in clinical trials, and in the US, we are injecting these viruses into children now. We have never seen any toxic effect. So it's exciting science. And let's have a look at manutech now. This is I've already said nanotech helps you in manutech. Why? Because when you coat moving parts like these, then things happen more efficiently. And we want to get rid of human beings and replace them with robots. At least that's what's happening in manufacturing in places like the car industry, because these robots can actually do it more accurately, more quickly, and more safely. Safety is very important in manufacturing. And people often talk about humanoid type of robots, but I don't think we'll see many of these. They're too expensive, and you know, human beings are rather nice. I always prefer to shake hands with a human being than one of these, wouldn't you? Okay, one of these will be fun at the Science and Creativity Festival next year. Fine. But I don't think you want one in your home, probably. And I don't think you want one looking after your elderly mother. I think you probably want a human being to do these kinds of personal things. So we need to use science appropriately. But in manufacturing, already, one of the greatest changes we are seeing is the business of knowing everything everywhere. So we're talking about the Internet of everything. It's adding tracking devices to every single device we can possibly imagine. And that, of course, relates to the next technology, which is infotech. Infotech, the digital world, the extraordinary life that you are already involved in, where we have the Internet of Things, which is maybe 50 trillion things, maybe even 200 or 300 trillion different items in 20 years' time, all connected together. In a room this size, I would expect maybe 10 or 15,000 maybe tracking elements. It might be something that's sewn into the jacket, which gives the retailer information when I buy it. It might be that my glasses contain the registration number in some kind of ID device. But it means that everything everywhere is known by manufacturers. They can track products, but it also has questions of privacy. So once again, we see with science we have an ethical question. The Internet of everything, you connect it all together and you create huge amounts of data, and then you put it all in the cloud. And if you are using any kind of Gmail system or something like that, or YouTube, you're already in the cloud, as you know. And when you connect these three things together, of course, you also create a massive vulnerability to attack. And we're going to see a lot more about that over the next decade, which is the vulnerability of the infotech world to targeted attack, where you've got the Internet of everything all connected together without much security, creating loads of big data, held in the cloud, just ready for someone to come and play mischief with. Now, when we think about the digital world, one of the problems we have is the one I mentioned earlier, which is getting data in or out of the brain. And you will see all kinds of new devices for people who do not want chips inside their brain, but they also want to find a more efficient way to get information in. And you will see hundreds of innovations, some of them like this one, which is Google Glass, which is interesting, but actually I wouldn't recommend it, and Google has just scrapped it. So innovation is about making mistakes. Innovation is about experimenting. It's not about always being right. It's just trying things, making things happen, provoking people to think differently. And part of this world, now I'm thinking about the next 5 to 10 years, is the explosion in e-commerce, with $1.5 trillion traded online just in the last 12 months, with a complete fusion of the online and offline and mobile world, which means if you're looking for a new opportunity as a young person, if you're looking for something, a business you could start in the living room of your own home, or you could run, a business you could run from your pocket, here is a fantastic one. It's mobile location-related marketing. It's enabling companies to understand where a person is, send them messages which are appropriate. So they say, they see the person is at a culture and creativity festival, therefore they must be interested in science. Therefore, I will send them some news items that are interesting about the science which is being displayed here. It's knowing how to whisper in the ear of your customer as they walk along the journey of life, because marketing is such a last century idea. Just to shout the same messages at millions of people and make them very annoyed, what a crazy thing to do. And of course, money. Well, money has survived longer than many thought. In fact, there's more cash in Europe today than there has ever been. Probably in Saudi Arabia too. People love cash. But cash will come to an end. More slowly than people think, but it will. And it will be replaced by mobile payment systems. And the country that leads this is in Africa. 70% of all mobile payments happen in Africa. 70% of those happen in Kenya. And most of those are on a system called M-Pesa. 1/3 of the entire country's economy is traded using mobile phones in Kenya. So Kenya is reinventing mobile payments and retail banking, and lessons from Kenya will touch every country, including this kingdom, over the next 5 years. And 1.7 billion people in the world have no bank account, no insurance, no way to save money, no way to protect their wealth. And most of those will find new banking services using a mobile device at some point in the next, maybe 5 to 10 years. It's going to happen really, very fast. And at the same time, the costs of all these devices which we own are falling towards zero. The cost of providing telcos and the cost of providing video calls falls towards zero. The cost of transmitting TV stations falls towards zero. Because as power doubles every 2 years, costs are also falling every 2 years. And at the same time, the amount of money you can make from mobile payments is rising. So the good news for all of you who are under the age of 20 is this. It will not be long before we find that people are giving the technology away to you for nothing. You'll get the mobile phone for nothing, and the bandwidth, and a smartphone replacement, and maybe an iPad, and satellite stations, and whatever you want. So long as you're willing to do all your banking using the mobile device. That's the future, and it's already started in some countries. Now, I wonder what you think this will do to education. Education itself is going to change hugely. And I think of the excitement that's outside. I think of this young guy who I met, who made this enormous thing. He started when he was 15 years old. He finished it when he was 17. He invented all kinds of technologies for the wheels, for the control systems, which did not exist. And he did them in a bedroom in his house. Fantastic. But you know what? What does this connect with the basic education? I think of how my children have been educated. Educated to write on pieces of paper in an exam. But they will never ever write anything in their lives again when they leave school. Crazy. They're educated about things they remember. But what makes my children smart is not what they remember, but how they know where to get what they need to find out. It's the ability to Google something, or to search, or to make sense of the noise that is out there. The ability to locate in 20 seconds the 5 most important papers on nanotechnology in car manufacturing when you know nothing about it. And within the next 10 minutes to type, not write, to type an email summary to your boss that summarizes all the most important things about nanotech in the car industry. Now, when you can do that, then we have an education system that works. Unfortunately, ours in the UK is not fit for purpose right now. Just teaching people to remember, then writing out on pieces of paper. This has to be we have to think again. This cannot be the future for our educational system. Travel tech, what about that? Very briefly, we're talking about all kinds of ways to travel, all kinds of hunger to explore, which is part of the human spirit. So you will see a boom in travel over the next 50 years for sure. But you will not see much change in these things. Why is that? I'll tell you why. There are only so many ways you can build a plane. They all have to have wings. They have to have engines. And the aerodynamics impose design constraints. And when it comes to the inside, people have to have a seat. It's the only way to pack them in, and seats look very much like other seats. So airlines, and here's the other reason. This airline, this plane, this physical plane, will be flying still in 50 years' time. If you have ever flown on a jumbo jet, The jumbo jet was designed in 1965. It started to fly in 1971, 1972, and we still fly on them today. But there are other areas which are changing much more quickly. Fast rail, yes, we're seeing an explosion of fast rail, especially in places like China. And where we see it, we see a decline in air travel. The other areas where we're seeing change happen fast is in the car industry. Now, here's another fact. If the whole world has as many vehicles as America per 1,000 people, then we will need 4 times as many cars in the world as there are today. But, of course, that then creates other challenges in terms of congestion and so on. But what about the design of cars? How will those change? Again, I have to say, not very much. You see, why? Look at the outside of the car. It is designed by a computer, not by a human being. And all computers think the same when it comes to wind tunnels. They look at the wind, they look at the design, and they optimize the car to look like an aircraft wing, basically. And every car in the future will look the same on the outside, because if you want energy efficiency, if you want to travel fast through air, you have to be a certain shape, and that shape we have already more or less got right. So the outside of the car will look very similar in some ways in 20 years' time than it does today. The other thing is the inside. If you are a human being, I don't care what shape you are, but you probably have to fit in a seat like this. It's like these chairs here. How else can you get 4 people or 5 or 6 inside a car? You have to provide them seats, you push them together, and the inside looks like a small bus or a train or whatever it is. And the same with cockpits. There is honestly a limit to the number of things you can display for a human being to use when they're driving. Now, of course, you may not need the cockpit because we'll have self-driving cars. But before we go there, the propulsion system will certainly change. And I predict that in cities like in Europe, where there is massive air quality problems, that most cars will be electric within 30 years. Most new cars will be electric. We are seeing dramatic changes in battery technology. The power is falling, the cost is falling hugely. We have enormous advances to make. We have billions of dollars being poured into investments in this area. And when those cars get on the streets, they will drive themselves. I don't know if you've been driven by a robot yet, but you soon will be, because robots are safer than you are. In fact, many governments, I think, will start to force people. They say you have to take an extra test if you want to drive yourself, because the computer actually is more likely to get you there safely and less likely to kill people on the street. And when the computer is in charge, we can link the cars together. So we'll have cars without drivers, cars without driving seats, cars that know where to go, and cars that link up. This is very, very important. You see, the computer can create a train. The train can have only half a meter between one car and another, and this reduces the wind resistance by 30%. So straight away, we have a fantastic jump in efficiency, and we're going to see changes in car rental, and then finally green tech, just in my last 5 minutes. Green tech linked to the car industry and everything else. We're talking about a $60 trillion growth industry over the next 50 years or so, to save money, save the planet, and also because some nations want to become independent of having to take in huge amounts of energy. They want to run their own energy supplies. So they're looking for new ways to produce energy rather than just use oil, coal, or gas. The European Union will probably produce 40% of its power from wind alone by 2050. That's their plan. And when we look at solar cells, we're seeing an amazing revolution. Just look at this. Look at how the cost of solar cells has fallen. It was $6 for 1 unit in 1990. In 2015, you can see it's falling literally towards zero. That is zero, and it will soon be almost zero. And we are already at the point where in many nations it is cheaper to make the power from electricity than to burn oil or gas or coal to make the electricity. Now that's today. Remember what happens, remember those doubling times, 2, 4, 8, 16? That same process you can see happening here in terms of prices falling. So the prices are continuing to fall. What do you think will happen to the world when the price gets to this point? I'll tell you what will happen. The cheapest thing to power your house will be a solar panel on the top. The cheapest way to power a building will be to have solar panels across the whole of the car park. The cheapest way for Saudi Arabia, even Saudi Arabia, in maybe 100 years' time, will be to power from the desert. In fact, talking of that, Saudi Arabia alone could produce 4 times, listen to this, this is a quote from your own Minister of Energy. Okay. Saudi Arabia could produce 4 times as much power from the sun as the whole world uses in electricity today. And you'd still have lots of desert left. And you say, well, how would we move it? How would we move this electricity? We have the power. We have already the technology to do so. But before we go there, you know, in Germany, last year, there was so much power produced from solar and wind that they had to give it away. They were paying people to use electricity. They said, please, if you use some electricity, we will pay you 4 times the normal rate for the next 3 days. You see, we are just in the first day of alternative green tech, and see how it's beginning to change the world. Can we move this electricity? Yes, we can. In the old days, we couldn't. But we now have technology to move electricity from Riyadh to Moscow with almost 0 power loss. I stood in a conference recently with the Chinese and the Russians, and the Chinese are planning to export nuclear power from Beijing to Moscow. So this is completely redrawing the map of energy, and then we can use new methods of storage, which include compressing air underground and so on. What it all adds up to is an extraordinary world where we can save energy, we can use the savings on the new air conditioning unit, and we can pay for the entire new system in 4 years. It's the same with street lamps. If you put in new street lamps, they save their entire costs in 4 years, after which you have a profit. And at the same time, you save 3% of the entire national power use. So this is a huge area. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, here is our exciting future. A world of biotech, which will produce an extraordinary increase in life expectancy. A world of nanotech, which allows us to produce incredibly efficient and small machines, and even to redesign life itself using a nanotech robot. A world of manutech, with extraordinary advances in automation and robotics. A world of infotech, which allows us unlimited knowledge, really, of how our world is constructed and connected together for enormous efficiency savings and to improve customer insight and so on. A world of travel tech, allowing us much more efficient ways to move around the earth and to explore it. And a world of green tech, a world that can be more sustainable for generations to come. And that is really the ultimate promise of science. That science comes alongside us to solve the problems of today, but more importantly, to build a more sustainable future for tomorrow's generations. And you are tomorrow's generation. You, the young people, the students in this very room. It is your science, your discoveries that will continue to transform not only the economy of this country, it will provide wealth for generations to come, but also help to be part of that great transformation that science will bring for the next 1,000 years. So I wish you every success in your scientific fun and your explorations as we see how amazing science will build a better world. Thank you very much.